Film Dive Podcast.
And then it was just sequel after sequel after sequel.
There was no character development at all.
Just that on pure technical levels.
There are filmmakers that don't want it just to be an entertainment experience.
Hello and welcome to Mid Academy Online Film Dive Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the wonderful, the magical Studio Ghibli.
Going overseas this time, going to a different part of the world.
Yes, we're going to the Far East.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where
Going to Japan.
Where dreams happen. No.
This is exciting. I'm excited for this one.
Yes.
It's really interesting to contrast the typical Hollywood scene, which we've talked so much about, with a completely different culture and an industry that is built around that culture, where the Hollywood world, it doesn't really have such a cultural identity. In the same way, you know, contrasting that with the Japanese films, they are solely Japanese.
Yes.
And, you know, they're
not catering to anyone else.
They're not shy about that. They're not like in Hollywood where they have to please everyone. They're doing their thing. And it's really good to see that. And the culture is so strong. These kind of films, TV shows, the whole anime thing is an industry that hasn't necessarily changed in a big way. They're still sticking with what they've been doing for decades. We've got beautiful animations for the most part. Yeah. Interesting methods, and they work very differently to the way they work in Hollywood, and we'll explain that as we go.
Yeah, good.
And it's sort of really fascinating just to contrast the two.
Yeah.
So without further ado...
Well, my story with Ghibli sort of began without me even knowing it. When I was a kid, hiring VHSs, and used to hire Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. And it was just such a mind-altering, bizarre experience being a kid watching that film. Because it's culturally, like you said, it's got a lot of things that you're just not... Well, we weren't really accustomed to, I suppose. Like, it was a different kind of film. Like, it was a different feel.
Yeah.
It felt different, and all these ideas and concepts were just so out there and different. I think it was one of those things that really opened up my mind, you know. Yeah. And for the good. And I ended up being kind of raised on anime and manga, like SBS. They used to show a lot of them. And Ghost in the Shell, I watched that when I was 6 years old or something like that, probably a bit too young. Yeah. But yeah, I ate it all up, and then a lot of the Western cartoons I found hard to get into because I'd seen so much. I was exposed to the violence and the nudity and all that kind of stuff. Not the Ghibli shows much of that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of focus, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a lot of focus on things like that, like pieces of anatomy. Everything's sort of larger than life. Yeah. And then they're not afraid to, you know, make the larger boobs or the bigger bums or
things wiggle and jiggle.
The bigger muscles on the man, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting to...
They play around a lot with all that kind of stuff. And it's just the quality of animation is kind of... can be so much more of a higher standard than a lot of the cartoons we were watching when we were kids. Yeah.
So we're going to focus on not all of the films because they've done a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to delve into.
But we're going to focus on sort of the main ones that have gotten a lot of attention.
We kind of you know, elbowed each other and said, well, we've done Disney animation, we've done Pixar animation and Leica. Yeah. What are we doing next? We might as well keep that going and explore Studio Ghibli. Yeah. And we just sort of decided on a handful of films that we thought would be good to kind of cover. So starting off with My Neighbor Totoro, I think was probably that one. Yeah. This is 1988, so that was probably the first one. Yeah. So what did you think about My Neighbor Totoro?
So, and I guess this is going to be a running theme with Studio Ghibli films. The thing that I really liked about the film... It's a serious film at the end of the day. The themes are very... It's about someone who, you know, is a sick person who could potentially die, and themes around people dying are clearly there. Yeah. Whether it's their mother or whether it's the little sister who disappears. Yeah. And they're there. And they don't shy away from that. They're there. They take it very seriously. And this, a lot of people would call a children's film. But you know, and I think it's a very important distinction to make that they're there.
Oh yeah.
Because these are things that wouldn't be allowed to do in many other cultures.
Disney films, they'd be like, it's a bit too heavy-handed.
But the fact that they're willing to put them in there is with these messages. They're important messages in life because everyone goes through a stage of loss, and that's a part of life. But I think what they do well here is they contrast it with this fantastical moment and this symbol. It's not really a monster. It's not really a character. It's more of a symbol of, you know, the symbol of comfort.
Yeah. A
symbol of someone always looking out for you.
Yeah.
It's
humbling.
It is. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
And that they treated it less as some big ogre monster creature thing, and more of someone looking out for them, someone looking over them.
Like a spiritual guide, or...
Yeah, that's right.
You know, someone that can take them away from that reality, the harsh reality. It's something almost like a kid could come imagine, like an imaginary friend, and go into a whole dreamscape or fantasy, and this is how they're coping with their mother being ill. And which I very, very much related to, you know, because, you know, my mum was ill and she passed away from an illness. And so... You know, I saw this film much later in life as well. This wasn't one I grew up with. I probably saw this when I was 15, 16, I think, around then. And my mum was ill at that time, so it really did hit me hard.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of hard for me to watch. And I kind of didn't want to go back to it for a long, long time. And I did go back to it many years later in my 20s. But
that would have taken some courage though, but I would have...
it did. It was kind of like, you know, once she did pass away and a few years after that, I kind of felt almost a need to kind of delve back into that thing again and kind of dig up a lot of that stuff and sort of resolve a lot of things. And it was, I guess this film really helped as I was going through the Ghibli backlog at that time, and I was kind of avoiding that one for a while, and then thought, no, I'm going to do it. You know, watched it by myself, and was just totally in awe with it. Very hard to watch at times, but at the same time, it really helped me. It was therapeutic.
Absolutely.
You know, it was very therapeutic. And, I don't even know what to say, because it's something that, you know, it hits you very hard if you've experienced those things in your life, but you can also watch it on the outside of that and still get the same kind of, I suppose, reaction.
And I think it's important to make the distinction that it's not a film about death, because no one actually dies in it.
That's right.
But it's just the idea of death that we're sort of facing, and it's interesting because it plays with the idea of, you know, the older sister in it. She's at the sort of the cusp of adulthood, or she's getting older, and she's almost getting looked upon by some people as having to be, you know, the more mature one, and someone who has to almost be looking out for her younger sister, and she has to, you know, be the person showing mentorship, or you know, guiding the younger person through this. But you also have to remember that this sister she's still young, and she still has to come to grips, you know, with as being a younger person with what's happening. So you'd have these striking moments where she would do her best to act responsible and like an adult. Yeah. But you can tell that she didn't want to. She just felt like that's what she had to do. Yeah, yeah. Did you see or recognize the voices of the girls? No, I didn't. The Fanning sisters, Dakota and Ellie Fanning. I think I picked up the young. I think I picked up the older one. I didn't pick up the younger. How cool is that? That's like perfect casting right there. I think this is a good segue to mention that these films, the reason why we've got them and the reason why they're on like Netflix and things is because John Lasseter actually saw Spirited Away, as everyone did. Yeah, and so he watched it with subtitles as you would, and at that point, he said, "We need to get our hands on this." So they actually went ahead and bought the whole catalogue. Well, they got the license for the whole catalogue to get it distributed, get it dubbed and distributed, you know, for the Western world, which is really interesting because the only reason why they got the go-ahead to do it is because they said, we're not going to change a single frame. They said, the films are going to stay as is. All we're going to do is put in, you know, we're going to dub them. English translation. English, that's it. And get them out there. And that's all we're going to do. And that's the only reason why we've got them. as widely available as we do today is because Disney stepped in and said, we're going to leave it as is.
Which is strange because I'm not sure what happened with Nausicaä, because I remember watching that as a kid and that was dubbed. So I'm not sure what happened with that one. You can look into that yourself and whatnot.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I vaguely remember watching that as an English cartoon because, you know, I wasn't reading subtitles at the age of 5.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know what happened with that one, but I think that was a different time. That was in the early 80s, in 1982 that film came out. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll look into that in, you know, whatever.
There's some homework.
Did you see Castle in the Sky? Did you watch that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that predates My Neighbor Totoro. So that was 1986. So I sort of skipped over that one there. What did you think of this one? I'm just going to keep seeing what your thoughts are.
So this one, again, there's less of those serious themes, but they're there.
Yeah.
You know, they're still there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to play with the idea, if you've got the power to do something, should you do something?
Yeah.
And that's what it sort of plays on. The idea that, and there's a few characters, you know, got the main character, the young girl, who's got this power to do, you know, sort of fantastical things or more, you know, superhuman things because of they explain the whole rocks and everything like that. So it's contrasted with this other person who also has the powers.
Yes.
Descendants of that glorious city. And he's like, you know, sort of like the way you could go, or the way, you know, which way could you go?
Yeah.
Take the power and control it all. You know, do whatever you want with the power because you're almost like a god.
Yeah.
Or you could use the powers for good, and it's almost like I guess if you reflect that in real life, you've got things in your life that you need to make decisions on, and do you want to make the right decision, or do you want to make the wrong decision? Do you want to do the selfish thing, or do you want to do something that's better for everyone?
The more selfless thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his films do carry a lot of the same kind of character traits as well. Like he's always got sort of like female villains.
Female leads too.
In leads.
Which is really interesting because Hollywood always gets backlash about not being enough females, and to a degree they're correct about that in today's age. But then you reflected on, you know, Japanese culture, and for the most part there's more female characters than there are males in a lot of cases. Especially
in these Ghibli films, especially.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just kind of gives them another kind of something unique.
Yeah.
It makes them unique, and they can explore some interesting themes with them. And these vulnerable characters, but strong characters as well.
I've always enjoyed exploring females as characters. And, you know, when I'm working on my own films or whatever it is, just because personally, I see you've got a lot more scope in it. You know? You can explore emotions and feelings.
There's a lot more depth with females.
There is. You can go deeper with them.
Yeah.
When males,
much more surface level. You've got to be that hero, stoic, you know, the typical kind of, you know, go lucky boy character.
Which it's not necessarily. That's, you know,
that's stereotypical.
We're not all like that. It's very stereotypical. We're not all like that in real life.
No.
But there is a tendency in Hollywood to paint all men as big macho men, and that's what they are and what they do and who they are and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess we've seen so much of that. It's nice to kind of get something a bit different.
Yeah.
This one, I love the animation in this. It's that 80s, full on 80s style as well.
Yeah.
I just don't. The colours so vibrant, and
all of them are just stunning.
Yeah, they are
beautiful.
So stunning, and I just love the way he just carries through things into each film. Even if it's the nature thing or the
nature thing's a big, powerful one. I suppose as we get to these films, we should mention that a bit more. But it's a strong theme where it's heavily rooted in Japanese culture, if I dare talk about it. But in their culture, it's more, they respect nature a lot more, and that's built into like their religion and their culture. Where more often than not in Western culture, we have more of this selfish view on the world, and the world is ours. The world is ours for the taking.
Yeah.
We can
the capitalist kind of mentality is just
that's right.
We're full tilt with it, and
we can destroy Amazon rainforest. It doesn't matter. We can destroy it, put on whatever we want to do because
as long as we get the steak, give me my cheeseburger with steak on it.
Put on palm trees on there, so we can get more vegetable oil. So,
whatever it is.
All this stuff,
And it's we're a very destructive culture, and I'm not saying.
And the messages are important because it's the idea. Once it's gone,
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing to reflect on real life that this is happening, and there are people who are content with, and we're all a part of it. We're all part of the system. They are content with, cheaper is always better in our minds, but there's always side effects of that.
Yeah, personal gain as well.
And we're all playing part of. We always want the cheaper thing. And
we're all very individualistic. We're all competing with each other. Whereas I think in their culture they are a lot more village minded. I probably shouldn't really talk about it because I'm not an expert.
That's right, but
they seem to be a lot more united as a race, whereas our, I guess, Western society has become very competitive. It always has been. It's always a race.
Yeah, it's always I'm right. Also, there's another thing where it's all. Everyone now has a voice, and they always think their shit don't stink, and they're more important than anyone else.
Yeah,
and it's these kind of films sort of embrace the fact that we're all part of a system and we're all part of a world, and every little person, everything,
every little creature,
every bit of the world counts.
Yeah.
And no one's better than the other one.
Yeah, lovely. Voices, just quick mention in this one: Anna Paquin and James Van Der Beek.
Very good.
Mark Hamill as well.
Wow.
So yeah, they always get decent voice actors, and even though I'm not a fan of James Van Der Beek and his acting career, I mean, it works, Yeah. So yeah, that's great. Moving on. So the next one is probably the main one. Well, one of the main ones. Princess Mononoke. You watched that one?
This is, I guess, the bouncing off period for a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of people realised.
This is
put them on the map.
Yeah, this is kind of the Star Wars thing.
It was the biggest one.
Yeah, it was kind of the one that just sort of launched them into the Western world, because at that time, this is the film that did try and enter the Western world, which it did.
Yeah.
But yeah. Crazy film.
Yeah,
love it.
In terms of the art style, it was going for very realistic. In terms of a lot of animation, it's going for more of the realistic kind of approach.
Yeah,
still very beautiful though. And speaking about what we were talking about before, about the importance of nature and the forest and all that, that's all plays in this one. This is probably one of the strongest ones that has those themes. Yeah. Most of them have these themes, but this one has it the strongest.
It's like full on.
Where it's all about, it is a war against nature.
Yeah. It's the cutting down trees and deforesting, and
it's the
killing.
I guess it's trying to say, it's the story is, once the forest is gone, it's gone, and once you destroy something, it's gone.
You can't replace it.
We probably all should be watching this film once in our life.
I think so. Yeah, this film is probably in my top 5 animations of all time. If not, it's right up there.
Yeah. There's mystical themes in there, but it's not necessarily a fantasy film.
No.
The themes of, there's spirits within the world. Yeah. So they're there in terms of spirits. But apart from that, it's very grounded in reality. And the only sort of leeway they had on it, the only sort of larger than life elements, was creating a physical manifestation of the spirits of the
the spirit of the forest and whatnot. Yeah.
And what it's like, what would happen if you destroy it. And this all comes down at the very end, at the very climax. The chicken comes to roost when they physically destroy the spirit, when they shoot the spirit, which is almost, it's, I guess, a way of saying, if you destroy the forest, you will destroy yourselves. Yeah. And that was a very physical, up in your face way of showing that. Where, the spirit, like, all this goop took over the world.
Yeah, that's right.
And they had to run from the goop.
Yeah, the goop. But yeah, there's an interesting story. I don't know. Harvey Weinstein obtained the distribution rights for this one, and he approached Miyazaki and insisted on a shorter version of the film that would be more attuned to American audiences, right? But Miyazaki was so upset by this, by the cut version, of Nausicaä, of the Valley of the Wind, that was released back in the day. Okay, so he angrily left that meeting, and then several days later, Studio Ghibli producer, he sent a katana sword to Weinstein's office with no cuts embedded onto the blade. And the film was released in an uncut way later on. But it's just funny, like, Western world always tries to take something and shape it, and it's changing what this film is about. Like, you know, like, to attune it to their audiences. You know, you don't do that. You know, it's just, it is what it is.
That's right.
Translate it,
yeah.
you know, as best you can, and that's the best you can do to get a wide audience, you know, release and reception. But not just that. Miyazaki, he personally corrected or redrew more than 80,000 of the film's 144,000 animation cells. So that just goes to show how much of a workaholic, perfectionist he is. And if you don't understand what that means he was personally redrawing 80,000 drawings to get it to how he wanted it to look. And this is one of those films that I think was one of the last of that kind of style of animating cells.
Yeah.
So it was the old school way. And yeah, there's a few documentaries about him. So yeah, anyway, I don't want to babble on for too long. But it's just, this film is huge in scope, and it replaced E.T. as the biggest grossing film at that time in Japan until Titanic.
I think we should, on the discussion of Miyazaki, I think it's important to understand what his role has been with these films.
Yeah.
He's not just the producer. He's not just the director. He's everything. He comes up with the story. He storyboards the whole thing from beginning to end himself.
Yeah.
He has a big say on the look and how it all runs, the day-to-day, getting operations created, operations. He's everything. He
is like the heart, the mind, the body, and the soul of Studio Ghibli. He is Studio Ghibli.
This wouldn't happen in the Western world. The Western world, everyone wants their hand on it. Everyone wants to have their say. He can create what he wants.
Yeah.
No one, you know,
can dictate to him.
That's right.
It's his baby. These are all his babies, and the company is his entity, and it's his voice, and it's him. He's almost like that, you know, that tree spirit in Mononoke. You know, he is almost that larger than life, where he's embedded into these films. It's his DNA, it's his being, it's his spirit, and it comes across in a big way. And the amount of times he's gone to retire, and he's like, Mononoke's his last one.
Yeah.
You know, because the amount of work this guy puts into these things, it's enough for you to go, I don't think I can do another one, you know, because it's crazy.
There's some people that have a purpose, right? And I guess I'm speaking for him in this case, so it's not necessarily the truth, but there's some people that have a purpose, you know, and they will do whatever they want to make that purpose a reality.
Yeah.
And that's almost what it feels like with some of these people like him, that they will make their life that film or that company or whatever it might be. That is there for as long as that entity is going to be a thing. That is their sole purpose.
Animation gets kind of like sometimes a bad rap. You know, like people just think, it's kid stuff or whatnot.
That's an important fact because
it's like
animation wasn't born to be a kid genre. When Walt Disney when he was making
Fantasia,
when he was making any of his
Dumbo,
films, his early films, anything that was getting made, they weren't made for kids. They were made for everyone.
I grew up and my pop was the fan. You know, he was the one that was like pushing them onto us.
Snow White was an
Snow
everyone
White.
film. That was the first one. Everyone said, no one wants to watch this.
But everyone wants to watch it.
Everyone won. And especially when they came out, you had all sorts of people.
Yeah.
It's just easy. And I think we got ourselves in the Western world. We got ourselves in this little pocket, this little spot where we're saying animation, that's a kid-like thing. In many ways, we've also done that with computer games too. These are kids' things. Only kids can do these. And a lot of the older generation still look at computer games as a kid-only activity.
Yeah.
I had a family member who used to say that, they're only for kids. They're a child.
It's a child's toy.
It is.
It's a toy.
They never really understood the purpose of them.
Yeah.
And animation, when it was born as a way of showing things that couldn't be shown on screen. This was before we had all these visual effects that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
So they could, they could only show so much in real life.
Yeah.
But with animation, you can show anything. You can draw anything you want.
Oh, and this is the thing that's always annoyed me because, I used to be embarrassed to be reading comics, to be still watching anime or reading manga or, playing video games and doing all these childish activities.
Yeah.
Childish activities. But the amount of adults out there doing it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. I mean, and it's fine. Like, keep doing it. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. Be proud.
There's a guy near where I live. I buy this bubble tea from this Asian place.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that runs it. And he's always got his gaming league top on. It's so cool. Yeah. Every time I see him, he's wearing it. Proud. He's the boss, but he just wears it because he can.
Yeah.
And it's great to sort of see that, that these older people are willing to embrace a culture, whatever it is, whether it's computer games, whether it's animation, whatever it is.
I guess it's a lot more accepted now, but when we were growing up,
especially through
the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff like that, it started to break ahead then, but especially since, the Marvel films have taken off and all that, I think comics and all that have become a lot more widely accepted.
Yeah.
But for a long time, they're video games, nerds, geeks.
Yep.
You wouldn't be openly saying, yes, I love Spider-Man, and yes, I love anime and manga.
Yeah, no way. They were... It's really interesting to look at when we're talking about all these, these Marvel films and all these comic book films. Every time someone would try and do it, they would be unsuccessful. It wasn't until Tim Burton that it actually started gaining some traction. But at that stage, it was like a...
Well, you had Superman, and that was it.
Yeah, no,
it was like Superman or nothing.
I'm going to do a comic book film. You're going to do what?
Yeah,
it's like a Death Note. It was
good luck.
No good.
And then they started doing after Batman. It was like, oh, okay, we can do all the pulp characters now. And then you had like the Shadow, and then you had the Phantom. And you had all these like cheesy ass sort of comic book heroes coming out. And it's funny the progression. We've like done a massive circle with it,
and especially. Look at now at all the films that are coming out, and we're glorifying all of these Japanese characters now.
No, like Ghost in the Shell that came out. They've been trying to make Akira for fucking 15, 20 years.
So many.
And you got video games that are really embracing it, like Fortnite has a lot of that kind of vibe to it. And video games is a big crossover there.
It feels like now that it's more accepted to have this crossover of cultures, and then it's all sort of getting melted. It's a bit of a melting pot.
Resident Evil as well. There's just so much.
It's still, so it's good to see there's sort of like this mixing and this intermingling of different ideas and cultures. Still very different.
Yeah.
At this stage, and
I embrace them just to make like Akira, or if they did Ghost in the Shell, make them how they are in the original anime or the manga. Go for broke. Don't be afraid. Don't try and water it down or try and appease a massive audience. Stick to your guns and make something that is actually a clear representation of the source material.
Stop trying to westernize things. We've got to get our hands off things.
And I understand if you got a $100 million plus budget, you need to put Scarlett Johansson in it.
I'd go as far as sending that money overseas where it should. Get it made in Japan. Let them make it.
Do a half production.
Half.
Or something like that. A joint production.
I think if you're going to touch cultural material, I think it's important that the culture you're taking it from has
a big say or a big part in it.
That's right.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, we've had Parasite come out and dominate. Yeah, which is 100% a foreign film, untouched by Western hands. Yeah, to my knowledge, and that's done so well. So I don't see why now that door isn't like a bit more open, where they're kind of be like, okay, if we lower the budget a bit, can we compromise? Do we need to put in who are the top actors these days? The guys that are in all the Marvel films. Do we need to put in Chris Hemsworth? Do we need to put in Spider-Man or all these guys and make it Chris Pratt and make it a sellable thing? No, you don't.
Yeah, and I personally, I don't in most cases, I don't give a crap who the actor is in a lot of films.
Yeah.
Because I almost like the fact that in some films, you don't know this person. Because then you can go in completely green and believe that person is that character.
Absolutely.
But if you look at films now, whoever it might be, you just see them as that character. You just see that as that person as that actor. And all that baggage that the whole celebrity life brings and all that stuff.
And to be honest, like, I don't really want to be hating on actors for doing what they do. But it's kind of annoying when there's so many actors out there and only a handful of them are getting the big films.
That's it, yeah.
And it's very tiring. And it's hard to... Actors are supposed to embody a different character for each film and be able to transport you to another character. But when you're seeing Robert Downey being Iron Man, Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Dolittle, or whatever, all in the same sort of thing, I know they're years apart, but I don't know. That's an example, and it becomes harder and harder to kind of, you know.
And the short lifespan for a lot of these actors is also the other sad thing. You know, they get an actor that proves themselves, and then 3 years later they're forgotten about.
Yeah.
And you know, there are those people that can stick around, but there's a lot that don't.
Yeah. Just quickly before we go, let's mention some of the voice talent.
Sure.
Billy Bob Thornton, Minnie Driver, John DiMaggio, the guy that voices Jake in Adventure Time, and Bender from Futurama. We got Claire Danes, Jada Pinkett Smith, Gillian Anderson from The X-Files, and Keith David, who does that wonderful, wonderful narration, and he's got that baritone voice. I just had to mention that because...
they got all the big names on these,
smash
ones,
it.
which is...
they're really good at that.
Other than that, I guess we'll leave it there.
Yes. See you on the next one.
See you later.
Adios.